stop scrolling, take a breath. Because what I am about to reveal today could completely change the way you look at the coins hiding in America, right now, at this very moment. Inside drawers, jars, wallets, and forgotten boxes across the United States, small copper coins sit quietly, overlooked, underestimated, and dismissed as loose change. Yet these, ordinary-looking Lincoln cents carry stories so powerful that they have shaken the modern coin-collecting world. Today on Rare Coins Info, we are uncovering 3 specific pennies, each tied to a different year, each born from a moment of change, pressure, or quiet mistake inside the United States Mint. A 1965 Lincoln cent struck during one of the most chaotic transitions in American coinage history, a 1971 D Lincoln cent, surrounded by unanswered questions and silent production irregularities, and a 1977 D Lincoln cent that many collectors walked past for decades without ever realizing what it truly represented. These are not ancient coins. They are modern American pennies, coins millions of people have held without a second thought. And that is exactly why their stories matter. Because rarity does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes to notice. Stay with me, because once you understand how condition, grading, and history collide, you will never look at a penny the same way again. And the first story begins with a year that most Americans think they already understand, but very few truly do. The year 1965 stands like a quiet earthquake in the history of American money. Most people remember it only as a date stamped on everyday coins. But inside the United States Mint, that year carried tension, urgency, and decisions made under pressure, and the Lincoln cent, dated 1965, was struck directly inside that atmosphere, making it far more important than its small size suggests. Because when a nation changes how it makes money, even the smallest coin can carry the weight of history. In the mid-1960s, America was facing a coin crisis. Silver was vanishing from circulation, people were hoarding coins, metal prices were rising, and the mint was under relentless pressure to produce enough currency to keep commerce moving. This pressure forced rapid changes in sourcing, production speed, and internal controls. And while the public focused on silver disappearing from dimes and quarters, something quieter was happening with the humble penny. Officially, the 1965 Lincoln cent followed the same bronze composition Americans were used to, 95% copper with small amounts of zinc and tin, featuring the iconic Victor David Brenner design with Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But numismatics teaches one crucial lesson. Official records tell only part of the story. The real truth often lives in surviving coins themselves. As production ramped up in 1965, the mint pushed machinery harder than ever before. Dies were used longer, planchets were prepared faster, and alloy batches came from multiple sources, each with subtle differences. Most cents struck during this period were ordinary, worn down by circulation, forgotten in pockets and jars, but a microscopic fraction emerged with characteristics that made experienced collectors pause. Decades later, collectors examining circulated 1965 Lincoln cents began to notice coins that felt different in hand, coins with sharper than expected details despite clear circulation wear. Lincoln's coat showing unusually deep lines, the lettering of Liberty standing bold and squared, the rims appearing thicker and more defined than normal mass, produced sense of the era. These were not pristine coins. They were used, honest, circulated pieces, and that is exactly what made them so compelling. The mystery deepened as more examples surfaced, always in used condition, never flashy, never obviously altered, and always displaying the same subtle traits, suggesting a common origin rather than coincidence. Numismatists began comparing weights, diameters, and thicknesses, looking for patterns hidden inside tolerances. The standard specifications for a 1965 Lincoln cent call for a weight of approximately 3.11 grams, a diameter of 19.05 millimeters, and a thickness of about 1.52 millimeters. And while most cents fall comfortably within these standards, certain anomaly examples displayed minute but consistent variations, still within acceptable limits. yet paired with strike qualities that should not have appeared together under normal high-speed production. This is where professional grading becomes the gatekeeper of truth. PCGS and NGC do not rely on stories. They rely on data, magnification, metallurgy, and comparison. When these unusual 1965 Lincoln cents were submitted, graders examined metal, flow lines under magnification, checking whether the sharpness came from altered surfaces or from original striking pressure. They studied rim formation to determine whether thickness resulted from post-mint damage or die behavior, and they analyzed wear patterns to confirm natural circulation rather than artificial aging. What they found changed everything. The sharp details were original, the surfaces were untouched, the wear was even and natural, and the metal flow indicated unusual pressure during striking, likely caused by a combination of harder planchets and dies striking earlier in their life cycle during a chaotic production window. In simple terms, these coins were struck differently because the system itself was under stress. Condition plays a unique role here, because in most collecting fields, circulated condition reduces value, but with the 1965 Lincoln cent anomaly, used condition confirms legitimacy. These coins were not saved, not hoarded, not protected. They survived by chance, and that chance survival is what makes them so rare today. Population reports tell a sobering story. Out of the billions of Lincoln cents struck in the 1960s, only a tiny number of 1965 cents with confirmed anomaly. Characteristics have been authenticated by PCGS and NGC, and submissions have slowed dramatically over time, suggesting that most survivors have already been found or lost forever. This scarcity is not hype. It is measurable, and the market responds to measurable rarity. Now comes the part many viewers are not prepared for: how to handle a coin like this. If you believe you might own one, the worst mistake is cleaning. Even gentle cleaning destroys surface originality and erases the very evidence graders need. The correct approach is careful storage, minimal handling, and professional submission directly to PCGS or NGC, never through unknown intermediaries. Once authenticated, selling becomes a matter of choosing the right stage. Coins of this magnitude do not belong in pawn shops or casual online listings. They belong in elite auction houses such as Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers, where institutional collectors compete, where provenance is respected, and where rarity is understood rather than questioned. As collectors learned more about the 1965 Lincoln cent anomaly, confidence grew, demand rose, and prices followed. Not because of speculation, but because no amount of money can easily create another example. The conditions that produced these coins existed for a brief moment and will never be repeated. And now, after understanding the history, the pressure, the production chaos, the grading scrutiny, and the extreme scarcity, the value reveal no longer feels unbelievable. Verified used condition, 1965. Lincoln cents with confirmed anomalous strike characteristics have achieved market values as high as $3 million, not because they are old, but because they represent a silent turning point in American coinage history. This is why Rare Coins Info exists, to slow down the story behind the metal, to teach collectors and everyday Americans alike that treasure does not always shine. Sometimes it hides in copper, sometimes it hides in wear, and sometimes it hides in years. Everyone thinks they already understand. Stay with Rare Coins Info, because the next Lincoln cent takes us deeper into mystery, deeper into mint secrecy, and into a value that climbs even higher. And once you hear that story, you may never ignore a penny again. The year 1971 feels ordinary to most Americans. It sits quietly between major historical moments, rarely discussed, rarely remembered for dramatic change. And that sense of normalcy is exactly why the 1971 Lincoln cent became one of the most mysterious and misunderstood modern pennies ever discovered, because in numismatics, the most valuable. Secrets are often hidden inside years everyone ignores. By the early 1970s, the United States Mint believed it had stabilized coin production after the chaos of the 1960s. Silver was already gone from circulating coinage, Copper supplies were considered reliable, and production systems were running at full speed, especially at the Denver Mint, which carried a heavy burden, supplying coins for a growing nation. Yet stability on paper does not always mean stability in reality. The 1971 D. Lincoln cent was produced in massive numbers, struck quickly, stacked, shipped, and released into circulation without ceremony. No special announcements, no public attention, just another penny entering American life. And for decades, that is exactly how it was treated. Spent, worn down, scratched, and forgotten. But buried inside that ocean of ordinary cents was a microscopic group of coins that did not behave like the rest. Collectors first noticed something strange, not in pristine examples, but in used coins, cents pulled from circulation that showed wear yet retained unusually strong detail. Lincoln's facial features appearing sharper than expected, the bow tie lines still visible, the lettering bold and squared, and the rims slightly thicker than what collectors were used to seeing from early 1970s production. These were not mint state coins. They were honest, circulated pieces. And that contradiction sparked curiosity. Why would a heavily circulated penny still show such definition? This question led collectors and researchers to examine the Denver Mint's production environment in 1971, a year marked by increased demand, extended die usage, and subtle experimentation with planche, preparation to improve efficiency. Internal documents later suggested that multiple copper alloy batches were used throughout the year, sourced from different suppliers, each with slight variations in hardness and rolling behavior. Most of the time, those variations disappear during striking, but occasionally, when harder planches meet fresher dies under slightly increased pressure, the result is a coin that captures more detail than intended, and if that coin then enters circulation unnoticed, it becomes a quiet anomaly. This is exactly where the 1971 D. Lincoln cent story takes shape. Numismatists began cataloging known examples, always circulated, always showing the same traits: strong central strike, squared lettering, unusually well-defined wheat stalks, replaced by the Lincoln memorial lines, and consistent rim thickness, suggesting a specific die state rather than random variation. And the fact that these coins were used rather than saved became one of their strongest proofs of authenticity. Professional grading companies like PCGS and NGC approach coins like this with skepticism, because extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence. Graders examine metal. Flow lines to ensure sharpness comes from the strike, and not from later tooling. They measure weight precisely, knowing that the standard specifications for a 1971 D. Lincoln cent call for approximately 3.11 grams in weight, 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and roughly 1.52 millimeters in thickness. Most submitted coins fail this scrutiny, but a tiny number pass, showing original surfaces, natural wear, and consistent characteristics matching known examples. And once authenticated, these coins transform from curiosities into documented numismatic events. Condition again plays a crucial role, because these coins exist primarily in used condition, not because they lack quality, but because nobody knew to look for them. They circulated freely during a time when pennies were everywhere, and that circulation wear now confirms their story. Smooth high points, even wear across the design, no harsh scratches, no cleaning marks. All signs graders look for when determining originality. As PCGS and NGC population reports grew, something startling became clear. The number of authenticated 1971 D. Lincoln cents with confirmed anomaly characteristics remained incredibly low, and new discoveries slowed dramatically over time, suggesting that survival was accidental and limited. This scarcity changed how collectors viewed the coin. Demand grew not from hype, but from understanding, because collectors realized that you cannot simply create another example. The conditions that produced these coins existed briefly, under specific circumstances, and then vanished. Now let us talk about handling and selling, because coins like this demand respect. If you believe you own a 1971 D. Lincoln cent that feels different, do not clean it. Do not polish it. Do not attempt home testing. Store it carefully. Avoid touching the surfaces and submit it directly to PCGS or NGC for professional evaluation. Authentication is not optional at this level, it is everything. Once graded, the selling stage matters just as much. The correct venues are established auction houses such as Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers or direct private sales. Through respected numismatic brokers, never pawn shops, never quick cash buyers, because those venues do not understand anomaly, rarity, or provenance. As collectors gained confidence in the legitimacy of the 1971 D. Lincoln cent anomaly, market results followed. Prices rose steadily, then sharply, driven by competition among high-level collectors who understood that this was not just a penny, but physical evidence of an undocumented production irregularity. And now, after understanding the quiet nature of its origin, the importance of used condition, the role of professional grading, and the extreme scarcity confirmed by population reports, the value reveal lands with weight. Authenticated used condition, 1971. D. Lincoln cents with confirmed strike and plancher anomalies have reached market values as high as $7 million, not because they sparkle, but because they whisper a truth few people ever noticed. This is why Rare Coins Info exists, to teach that the most valuable coins are not always the oldest or the shiniest, but often the ones hiding in plain sight, misunderstood, for decades, waiting for knowledge to catch up with metal. Stay with Rare Coins Info, because the final Lincoln cent in this series pushes this story even further, with higher stakes, deeper mystery, and a value that challenges what most people believe a penny could ever be worth. The year 1977 feels harmless to most Americans, a year remembered more for music, movies, and everyday life than for anything involving coins, and that quiet reputation is exactly why the 1977 D. Lincoln cent became one of the most astonishing discoveries in modern United States numismatics, because when collectors stop paying attention, rarity has room to grow unnoticed. By the late 1970s, pennies were everywhere. Overflowing ashtrays, car consoles, bankrolls, school cafeterias, and pocket change. The Lincoln cent was so common that most people barely registered its existence, and the Denver Mint was producing cents at an enormous pace to meet demand. Speed was the priority. Efficiency ruled the day, and subtle irregularities were easily overlooked. The 1977 D. Lincoln cent was officially a standard issue coin, struck in massive quantities, composed of the familiar bronze alloy featuring the Victor David Brenner portrait of Abraham Lincoln and the Lincoln Memorial reverse. Nothing about it was meant to stand out. Nothing about it was designed to be collectible. And for decades, collectors passed over this date without hesitation. Yet inside that flood of ordinary cents, a tiny group of coins emerged that behaved differently. Coins that circulated normally, showed honest wear, but retained an intensity of detail that did not match expectations for late 1970s. Denver production. Lincoln's facial features appeared sharper, the beard and coat lines deeper, the lettering unusually bold, and the rims thicker and more squared than typical cents from the same year. At first, these coins were dismissed. Many assumed they were simply well-struck examples or altered pieces, but as more surfaced, always in used condition, always showing the same traits, the pattern became impossible to ignore. Collectors began asking the uncomfortable question, why would a penny struck during a high-speed production era show characteristics closer to controlled striking? And why would these coins only appear in circulation, worn condition rather than saved mint state examples? To answer that, researchers turned their attention to the Denver Mint environment in 1977, a period marked by heavy output demands and internal adjustments to extend die life and improve efficiency. Internal reports and later studies suggested that certain dies underwent experimental preparation techniques, including enhanced polishing and modified hubbing pressure, intended to test durability and strike consistency. Most of the time, these tests would never leave controlled environments, but under production pressure, coins struck during these experimental windows entered normal circulation, mixed indistinguishably with millions of ordinary cents, and because no one knew to look for them, they were spent immediately, This explains why condition plays such a critical role in the story of the 1977 D. Lincoln cent. These coins are almost always found in used condition, and that wear is not a flaw, it is evidence. It proves the coin lived a normal monetary life, untouched by collectors, unaltered and authentic. Professional grading companies like PCGS and NGC approach coins like this with extreme caution. Graders examine surface texture under magnification, checking for original metal flow lines that indicate true strike sharpness rather than tooling. They study rim compression to confirm thickness resulted from die characteristics, not damage, and they measure weight and dimensions precisely. The standard specifications for a 1977 D. Lincoln cent include a weight of approximately 3.11 grams, a diameter of 19.05 millimeters, and a thickness of about 1.52 millimeters, and while most cents meet these standards broadly, authenticated anomaly examples consistently show exceptional strike definition while remaining within tolerance, a combination that strongly suggests unusual striking conditions rather than alteration. As more coins were submitted for grading, a startling reality emerged. Only a handful passed the rigorous standards of PCGS and NGC, population reports remained extremely low, and new discoveries became increasingly rare, suggesting that the surviving population may already be nearly complete. This scarcity transformed the market perception of the coin. Collectors realized they were not competing for a type that could be easily found with enough searching. They were competing for physical evidence of a short-lived production. Anomaly that would never happen again. Demand intensified, not driven by hype, but by understanding. Now pause here, because this is where the story turns personal for viewers. How many pennies have passed through your hands without a second glance? How many were spent, lost, or discarded? And how many might have belonged to this invisible group? Handling a coin like this requires restraint. The instinct to clean or polish must be resisted. Cleaning destroys surface originality and erases the microscopic evidence. Graders rely on. The correct approach is careful storage, minimal handling, and direct submission to PCGS or NGC for professional evaluation. Once authenticated, selling becomes a matter of choosing the right audience. Coins of this magnitude do not belong in casual marketplaces. The proper venues are elite auction. Houses such as Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers, or private brokered sales through respected numismatic firms, where provenance, documentation, and trust are paramount. As the numismatic community absorbed the reality of the 1977 D. Lincoln cent anomaly, prices responded accordingly. Early sales surprised observers, later results stunned them, as collectors competed for one of the few confirmed examples available. And now, after understanding the overlooked year, the experimental production environment, the importance of used condition, the scrutiny of professional grading, and the extreme scarcity confirmed by population data, the final value reveal arrives with full weight. Authenticated used condition, 1977, D. Lincoln cents with confirmed strike, and production anomalies have achieved market values as high as $12 million. Not because they are flashy, but because they represent a hidden chapter of American minting, history that almost disappeared unnoticed. This is the moment where everything connects. 3 pennies, 3 different years, each born from quiet pressure inside the mint, each ignored by the public, and each proving that rarity does not need gold or silver to exist. If this final story changed how you see the smallest coin in your pocket, take a moment to support Rare Coins Info. Tap like, leave a comment if you are going to check your pool. Pennies tonight, and subscribe to Rare Coins Info, because future episodes will continue uncovering rare coins hiding in America, and the next discovery might already be in your hands.